Assalamu alaikum. How are you? I hope you are fine. So it's again business communication. In last few lectures we've been discussing what is communication, the flow of communication and different aspects of communication. And the most important thing among all was letters, reports, memos in written communication and presentation, dialogues, face-to-face meetings, teleconferences and oral communication. Today I think that we start this lectures of ours with a letter. We've been trying to emphasize a lot of aspects of letters, but today we see that what is a letter and what should be a letter. Let's read one letter. Let's see. Dear Mr. Naeem, in accordance with your request of recent date in which you expressed concern about the damaged merchandise you received on May 18, I have reviewed your case and have reached a decision that full restitution should be made to you. What do you say about this letter? I'm sure that you won't be able to find any grammatical mistake in this letter. It's a perfectly grammatical letter. There is no problem. Can you find out any other mistake in it? Any problem with it? Obviously, you may pinpoint one word, restitute. It's a bit difficult and maybe an unknown word for most of you. But what about the rest of the letter? I think you don't find any answer to my question that what else is wrong with the letter. Remember that a lot of time you will read letters and you may not be able to find any grammatical mistake. But even then, after having read that letter or any written communication, you may feel that there is something wrong, still something wrong. Maybe the tone of the letter is not acceptable to you. You don't like the tone in which the letter is written. Maybe something is missing. For example, if you look at the first sentence of the letter, in accordance with your request of recent date, maybe if it was you sent something of recent date, still comes into your mind that what date? I mean, if the letter writer had given the date, it would be easier for you to make a reference. So, don't stop thinking with this letter. We'll come back to it. We have another letter for you to see, and we'll read and see that what is wrong with that letter, or the letter is again grammatically correct. So let's see the second letter. Dear customer, now is the time when all smart shoppers are taking advantage of the special money saving buys at Bright while our back to school sale is in progress. School will be starting soon and crowds of shoppers are trying to buy their children's clothes. Why not come in now while we offer the lowest prices of the year and a pleasant shopping atmosphere? So what's wrong with this letter? Again, I would say that grammatically it's a perfect letter. You can't pinpoint any mistake with this letter. But suppose that you are the reader of this letter. I mean, you've been regular customer of a certain store and you've been sent this letter. What would you feel? Any answer to my question? I think you would feel that the writer of the letter is bragging of his merchandise, is talking too much about his store's shopping activities, isn't it? So let's see another letter. Dear Mr. Tariq, I regret to inform you that we are completely booked up for the week of August 22. We have no rooms available because the Word Processor Association will be holding their convention at our hotel during the week of August 22. As you will surely understand, we have to reserve as many rooms as possible for members of the association. If you can't change the date of your trip, maybe you could find the double room with bath that you want at another hotel here in Murray. So, if you look at this letter, what would you say? What is your response to this letter? If you were the recipient of this letter and you had written this letter to some manager of a hotel at Murray because you wanted to stay there, and you would receive the same letter, would you find that this letter lacks you attitude or courtesy, especially the last paragraph or the second paragraph of the letter? And beside that, there is some repetition. I mean, you should have been informed that they are, because of some certain reason, unable to reserve a room or two for you. And in a good letter, you might be, they might have suggested something else. This letter is, again I would say, is grammatically perfect letter. So one thing you need to learn is that if a letter is grammatically correct, it doesn't mean that the letter is also perfect. Also bring back the desired result. It does not annoy the reader, and it sets a mind meeting between the writer and the reader. Let's look at another letter. Dear Mr. Asif, with reference to your order for our 35mm camera, we are in receipt of your check and are returning same. I beg to inform you that as a manufacturer, our company sells cameras to dealers only. In compliance with our wholesale agreement, we deem it best to refrain from direct business with private consumer. For your information, there are many retailers in your vicinity who carry camera. Attached, please find a list of said dealers, hoping you understand. So, what do you find wrong with this letter? Again, this letter lacks a lot of qualities of a good letter. What are those qualities? I want you to suggest. I want you to know that what qualities these letters lack. What principle of writing these letters lacks. This is very important. You must know. So that's why I have read all these letters for you, that you should know that what's wrong with letter. Today we are going to study principles of communication. On what principle this communication stands? What are required of a communicator to know? What you should keep in mind when you are going to draft your letter, when you are going to write your letter, when you are going to communicate with others. So, just to show you the difference, that what happens when you apply these principles and when you don't apply these principles is, see the same letter, the last letter that I've just read, written differently, applied with all the principles of communication. Dear Mr. Ali, we have received your order for 35mm camera, but unfortunately must return your check. As a manufacturer, we sell cameras only to dealers with whom we have very explicit wholesale agreements. Nevertheless, we sincerely appreciate your interest in our product. We are therefore enclosing a list of retailers in your community who carry a full line of our cameras, and one of them will be happy to serve you. Sincerely yours. So if you look at this letter has a you attitude. I mean, this letter is written from the point of view of the reader. Obviously, the request of the reader, writer of this of the letter, whom this letter is being sent as a reply, was not being fulfilled. He is not going to have his desired object or purpose is not going to be solved. But even then, this letter is going to serve him a purpose and will not create any sort of annoyance in him. Why? Because this letter is written with the principles of communication. Communication is a very prized quality. All the communicators are very successful people in their professions. Why they are successful? Because they keep in mind certain principles, certain things when they are going to write messages. Whether these messages are oral messages or these messages are written messages. So, since you also want to be a good communicator, you also need to know all these principles. These are very familiar principles. These are the principles, those apply both to written and oral communication. So, let's look at what these principles are. We begin with, communication is an important part of our world today. The ability to communicate effectively with others is considered a prized quality of the successful business people. To communicate easily and effectively with your readers, you should apply the following 7 C's principles. And these 7 C's are clarity, conciseness, consideration, concreteness, correctness, courtesy, completeness. So, these are 7 principles. These 7 principles tell you a lot about your writing habits, your oral presentation. How can you improve your communication? I mean, these principles discuss that what you should keep in mind when you are writing your messages or when you are preparing your oral presentations. So, sometime you will find that these principles overlaps, but they do so because they are concerned with the common concern for the audience. That's why you feel them that sometimes they overlap. So we begin with the first principle, that is clarity. So let's look at this first principle. What is clarity? This clarity will tell you that how can you make your messages clear to your reader and clear to yourself as well. How you can achieve your desired results. How you can have successful business messages in writing as well as in oral presentation. So look at the first principle, that is clarity. We define clarity as, clarity means getting your message across so that the receiver will understand what you are trying to convey. Clarity can be explained that getting your message across. Getting your message across means that you convey your message. Whatever you have in your mind, you convey it to your reader or to your audience. This is not an easy job. A lot of time, as we discussed in the previous lectures, a lot of time you have something to say through writing, something to say through oral messages. But when the moment comes, when you start telling that very thing, what happens? You start stammering. You feel that something is blocked in your mind. You don't find the way to communicate it. So, think of any such situation and you will realize my statement that getting your message across to your reader is not something easy. How can we achieve this purpose? How can we do this? How can we get our message across? So, very first thing and important thing is that think out. Think hard. Whenever you want to write any business message, for example, if you are to write any message, you should make a heading. Make headings of all those sub-headings regarding that message. Make a list of different thoughts that come to your mind. Make a rough draft. You know that we say that writing is a process. When we say writing is a process, what does it mean? It means that the thought that we have to convey is in our mind in a very rough shape. That is, we can say that we think over it and we have different ideas about that thought. We need to write those ideas into different form. It may be regular writing or it may be different headings or different points. So, when we have written something in different points, we are able to know that which of the point needs to be eliminated from the message or which of the other points need to be included. Doing all this exercise is doing brainstorming. We call it brainstorming. So, after we have done brainstorming, we come into the next stage, that is writing. Now, what we have done in the brainstorming stage needs to be brought into some regular writing. And after we have given it a draft shape document, or after we have written something, we again revise. And this revision comes into post-writing. But these three stages are not something very easy. They require a lot of skill on the part of the writer. And this is what we are going to study. So what I tell you about clarity is that clarity comes from getting your message across to your reader. And it comes when you think hard over your messages and brings them into point in a form or into a rough draft form, and then you revise it. But there are a lot of other things that need to be known, that needs to be taken care of in this process of writing. So what are these? These are your own ideas, your expectations associated with words, your interpretation of the word. As you have your own ideas, your own interpretations, your own association with the words, your reader does have the same. So, the very first thing is to be able to know what are the words. Words are very important. They are the basic tools of all communication. Whatever we say consists of words. So we must know that what type of words we need to use in a certain situation, especially in a situation in which we are communicating. So, we got to choose words. What type of words? Let's look at this. We say, choose precise, concrete and familiar words. I mean, this is the first statement that we make. Choose precise, familiar and simple words. Clarity comes from this aspect. Your word should be conversational. It's meeting of the minds. You know it. That when you are communicating, you are having a meeting of the mind with your recipient, your receiver of the message. So it's very important that you must be well versed with word. The word that you are choosing should be very simple. The word that you are choosing should have force. Remember that some of the people think that by using very big word, high frequency words, they'll be able to communicate. If you see that I use some very difficult word in my lecture, will you be able to understand my lecture? Or if you read anything and in which you find a lot of words which are not familiar to you, so will you be understand that message, written message? I don't think so. I mean, in communication, what we need to know, we need to transfer our messages in such a way in which we are able to communicate, we are able to find the answer to our problems. We are able to achieve the desired result. So, a lot of people who think that by using difficult word they can achieve their purpose are wrong. There are people who use certain expressions about which they think that these expressions can express themselves. And these expressions have become trite. These expressions have become cliché. These expressions are even foreign in English. I mean, you may come across a letter in which you find certain words which are not English words, which are either Latin word or French word, because English do use in the past, say in the beginning of 20th century or in 19th century, it was the tradition to write letters or write other type of communication using all these bombastic words, all these high frequency words, all these foreign words. But now the times are changed. People have learned that they can best communicate when they are using words which are simple, understandable, short, which are conversational. Whenever they use those words, people understand what they want to communicate, what they want to say. So, I want to show you certain types of words which you must not use when you are communicating. This is very important. So, we begin with choose short, familiar, conversational word. You will see that we have two types of word. One are simple word and the other are complex word. So, if you look at this, a substantial segment of the population. So, if you look at this word, this is a very difficult word. And the same thing can be explained very easily and which is understandable to every one of you if we say many people. Similarly, if you look at the other examples of complex word, you will find the same thing and you will agree with me that using these difficult expressions make communication difficult. And if you use simple words, you communicate. You send your message, you convey your message, and everyone who has your message, who listens to your message, understand what you want to communicate. So, make it your habit that when you are talking, when you are writing, you must use simple word, conversational word, concise words. So, this is one type of word. Let's look at the other type of words. If you look at this, I read it, arrived at the conclusion. Arrived at the conclusion is an expression. For example, you are writing and you say, we have arrived at a conclusion. But the same thing can be said with one word. We have concluded. Remember that when you write, you take care of certain things. And one of those is that every word costs you or your organization. We have discussed about this aspect of cost. So, if you can convey your message through one word, why to write 3 words? and you will find a lot of words, such words which can be conveyed in one or two words. A whole expression, a whole phrase can be conveyed in one or two words, and people are using those long expressions. So be very careful about these expressions when you are writing your own communication. I'm sure that a lot of you will be working in some organization and will be dealing with communication. So you should start thinking about your communication from this angle, from these aspects, what we are doing nowadays. Since you are doing it, if you are trying to use your knowledge of this subject at workplace, you'll learn earlier, I'm sure. So after these long expression, let's see what next is. A lot of time we use words, we use expression made up of 2 or 3 words, whereas all the words in that expression give the same meaning, or they need not be used twice. For example, let's take this absolutely free. Using this adverb absolutely with this free, it doesn't make sense, because free has given its complete meaning to the listener, to the reader. Similarly, adequate enough, as to, whether, at about, attach, hereto, etc. and these type of expression you will come across a lot of times in your communication. These are all repetitive. The same thing is being repeated. So instead of repeating words, why not to use the single word? It will save your time, your reader's time, your cost, your reader's cost, and lot more. You'll be able to finish your work well in time. So be very careful about this aspect, that whenever you are going to write, avoid repeating the same expression with more than one word. A lot of people make blunder mistake. Blunder also make a strong mistake, a type of a mistake. So what's the use of using it? So be very careful. Then when you are writing your communication, use simple, concise word, and use expression which are expression which are easy to understand, and don't use words which are repetitive. So let's look at the other type of words. In communication that goes around us, we read a lot of letters, communication, a lot of reports, etc., in which we find some traits. I mean, traits are those expressions which have lost their force. I mean, they are used a lot of times that we have lost the force of that expression. So you got to be careful not to use those trite expressions. So some of them are here for you, like acknowledge receipt of, agreeable with your desires in the matter, etc., etc. You can see that instead of using these traits, you can use other very conversational expression, and they convey your message to your reader, to your listener more effectively and more precisely. So be very careful not to use these trite expressions and use conversational words instead. So let's see the next type of words. Again, we have cliches. Here are some of the more popular cliches. Use them sparingly, only when you are sure they best express your intent. All things being equal, break the ice, etc., etc., by rule of thumb. These expressions must be avoided. Beside on these words that we've been discussing, you need to know about words, about antonym of the words. Antonym means the words in opposite in meaning. About synonyms, that's very important. Whenever you are using words, you must have some very good dictionary and thesaurus with you. All good writers have dictionaries by their side on their table. and a thesaurus or a dictionary of synonym. All these things are available in the market and easily accessible. So if you pick up a good dictionary, a good thesaurus, it can help you a lot. Whenever you are in need of words, simple words, you can look up the words in dictionary or in thesaurus. Just open the book and you will find the words. They are always there for your help to write very good English, write easy English, readable English, conversational English. So be very careful when you are dealing with synonym, that what are the difference between two words. For example, let's take eager and anxious. So these two words may be given under one heading of like synonym, that they are synonym to each other, but they have a difference of meaning. Don't confuse these two words or these types of words. And there are a lot of words there which are used in a very confused manner. So if you look at the words, be very careful that you don't have to confuse these synonym or these antonym, etc., etc. Like when you are using homophones, be also very careful not to confuse. You must know that, for example, the word advise and advice, when it is to be used as a verb and when it is to be used as a noun, their pronunciation is different and their grammar is different. One is verb and the other is a noun. So affect with A and affect with E should also be taken care of, and a lot of words. And I'm sure that these pair of words or homophones are given in at every level, right from fifth form to graduation. I mean, in all the colleges, on all the universities, in all the curriculum and syllabi of the universities and colleges, you'll find these words too many times. But even then, I've seen in my teaching career that people make mistake. They confuse. Instead of using a noun, they use a verb. Instead of starting affected, the medicine affected, they're starting it with A, they use it with E. So be very careful about these words. So to get clarity, we are discussing clarity. To get clarity, to get your message across to your reader, to your listener, you need to choose simple, concise and conversational words. Beside these, there is another thing, and that is that, as I discussed, that sometimes we use foreign words in English. We use foreign word, Latin word or French words. So be very careful not to use too many French or Latin words in your writing. And if you are using, you must be sure that this is a familiar word now. There are some words which have become familiar now. So let's. One thing is there that since the invent of this internet and all this information technology, we have a lot of emails. We send a lot of emails. We receive a lot of emails, and in emails we have devised a certain language jargon, or we use a lot of terms, lot of acronyms that we use. For example, we use IMO, in my opinion. So you must be familiar with these acronyms. Whenever you are using it or whenever they are being used, be very careful that not to confuse your reader with these acronyms. So let's see what next is. We have talked about appropriate words, synonyms, so you can see that I've talked about technical vocabulary or jargon. Whenever you are using, be careful not to use technical jargon or technical vocabulary with those who do not understand them. I mean, there used to be a time when this technical vocab like CPU, hardware, and this laser, these were quite unknown even to educated people, but now they are well known by the children at school. at third or fourth grade they become familiar. Even before going to school, children are getting familiar because they are too much in use in all the homes. A lot of people have their own PCs. So these things, these technical words are becoming known to a lot of people. But still there are a lot of areas, a lot of fields in which there are certain words which are not known to people outside that realm, outside that field. So be very careful not to confuse people with your own technical vocabulary or your jargon. So we have talked about foreign words. There are some example of Latin words and some example of French word. Be careful not to use or confuse your reader with these words. We come to another aspect of clarity, and that is construct effective sentences and paragraph. Sentence is a very important thing. After words, it's a group of words, and there are a lot of definition of sentence. Here we are not going to discuss different definition of sentence. We all know that whenever a thought is complete, it is a sentence. It's in the core of all communication. So you got to construct sentences that are effective, because effective sentence make effective paragraphs, and effective paragraphs make a whole communication, a letter or a memo or any message or a report or anything. So what is important for your sentences? That the length of sentence should be taken care of. You have to take care of the unity. You have to take care of the coherence. You have to take care whether your sentence is emphasizing something or not. So taken together, we say that at the core of clarity is the sentence. A sentence moves thought clearly within a paragraph. Important characteristics are length, unity, coherence, emphasis. So we begin with the length. Normally in business communication, we want that the length of each sentence should be to a certain limit. For example, it should not go more than 17 words. It should start from 3 words to 17 words. There are other statement about this too. It can be of 30 words. A sentence can be of 30 words. But remember that your sentence must not exceed 40 words. Remember, when you are writing sentence, you should write sentence of different construction. If I take up a sentence is a part of different components. For example, we have a subject, we have a verb, we have an object, we have a complement, we have an adverb. So these are the 5 components of a sentence: a subject, a verb, an object, a complement, and an adverb. As per our requirement, we choose different components. At least we need 2 components, most of all, a subject and a verb. Our subjects and our verbs and our other components must not exceed these 40 words. If we have a sentence that exceeds 40 words, we need to revise the sentence, bring the sentence into smaller segments, into smaller words, right? Another thing about sentence is that you should bring variety into your sentences. Remember that when you are writing sentence, your sentence should not have this SVOCA structure. I mean, every sentence starts with the subject, then comes verb, then comes object if required, then comes adverb. You should learn to write sentences with different structure, maybe adverb coming first, maybe some phrase coming after the subject, and so on. You should use different types of sentences. Remember that we have simple sentences, we have compound sentences, we have complex sentences. You must be well versed with sentences. You must know that what is a simple sentence, when it starts, when it ends. How do we combine two sentences to make a compound sentence? What should be the punctuation? We'll be discussing later. What should be the punctuation of a sentence? And when we are dealing with a complex sentence, we must know that our main idea must be in the main clause, not in the subordinate clause. So be very careful about different types of sentence. Learn to write different types of sentence. Be familiar with connective. Be familiar with adverbials. Be familiar with conjunctions, etc. to make your sentences which are effective. You must know that how to make a complex sentence. So be very careful about words in a sentence. They must not go beyond the limit of these 40 words. Normally they should be in between 3 to 30 words. So if you have sentences that are longer, must revise your sentence. Be very careful that longer sentence normally are found in formal writings, in formal reports. In business communication, the level of word is informal, and the type of language is informal. So be very concerned about this aspect, that you have to use informal language in your correspondence, in your communication. So what is about unity? Unity means that when you are writing, especially compound sentences, your compound sentence should have same thought. It shouldn't be so that one clause has one thought and the second clause has another thought. For example, if you make a sentence like this, Pakistan is my beloved country and my friend is not well today. This is a compound sentence. There is no objection on grammatical basis on this sentence, but there is no unity of thought. So to achieve a good quality of communication, you should be very careful that the thought of your sentence should be very much the same. There should be a unity in the thought. This unity of sentences, in fact, goes to the unity of the paragraph and then to the unity of the whole piece of communication that you want to send it to somebody. So be very careful about unity. The third thing is coherence. Coherence means that all the thought that you are writing are well connected. For example, look at one sentence. Being the chief executive, we can expect help from you. So if you look at this sentence, who will expect help? And who is the chief executive? This sentence is vague. It lacks coherence. It does not convey any meaning. Maybe you are able to guess some meaning, but grammatically this is an incorrect sentence. So look at its correct version. Being the chief executive, you can surely help us. So now it's very clear that who is the executive and who expect help. So always be very careful. You need to learn some grammatical things to achieve this clarity. So another thing that is required is emphasis. Emphasis means that when you are writing your sentences, you must be sure that which thought give emphasis to your which sentence give emphasis to your thought. For example, you are writing such a sentence in which you are conveying two thoughts. One is the main thought and other is the subordinate thought. You need to show it to your sentences. If you bring sentences of equal rank, compound sentences which convey two thoughts, so in this way you are giving less emphasis to your sentences. Look at this sentence. The order was received and the manager started preparing for it. I mean, the order was received, this is one sentence, this is one independent clause, and the manager started, this is another independent clause. These are two independent clauses joined by and. So it's a compound sentence. But if we look at the emphasis, none of the clause give emphasis. But if we rephrase or revise this sentence, we can make such a sentence in which we emphasize. So look at the sentence. As the letter was received, the manager started preparing for it. So now we have made one thought the main and the other subordinate, and in this way we can easily give emphasis to our thoughts, to our sentences. Now we have access to word processor, computer, we have a computer with us, and we can use certain techniques to give emphasis to our words, expression while writing letter. You can highlight any word, you can use certain other features to give emphasis to your sentences. So these different aspects tell us that how we can achieve this clarity. I talked about clarity, that clarity is getting your message across. Clarity जो है वो आपका अपने मैसेज को दूसरे तक पहुंचाना है, कि आप अपने मैसेज को दूसरे तक कैसे पहुंचाएंगे. इसके लिए क्या आप करेंगे? इसके लिए ये करेंगे कि जब भी आपके पास एक मैसेज है लिखने को, एक बात है कहने को, तो सबसे पहली चीज़ ये है कि आप किसी भी सफ़े पे आप लिख लें उसको, वन बाय वन उसके मेन पॉइंट्स लिख लें. उस मेन पॉइंट्स में देखें कि कौन से लफ्ज़ जो हैं वो आपकी बात को कन्वे कर रहे हैं और कौन सी चीज़ें आपकी बात को कन्वे नहीं कर रही. और उसके बाद आपने जिन चीज़ों का ख्याल रखना है वो ये चीज़ें हैं कि आपने जो ज़ुबान, जो अल्फाज इस्तेमाल करने हैं, वो अल्फाज जो हैं वो बहुत सादा अल्फाज होने चाहिए. वो अल्फाज जो हैं वो काबिल फ़हम होने चाहिए. वो अल्फाज वो होने चाहिए जो हम आम तौर पे गुफ्तगू में इस्तेमाल करते हैं. और आपने देखा आज के इस लेक्चर में कि हमने मुख्तलिफ़ किस्म के अल्फाज जो हैं वो आपको दिखाए ताकि आपको इस बात को समझने में आसानी हो कि आपने किस तरह के लफ्ज़ जो हैं वो चुनने हैं. लफ्ज़ों का इंतखाब जो है ये बहुत ज़रूरी है आपने आपको बेहतर तरीके से कम्युनिकेट करने के लिए. इस तरह आपने ये जब लफ्ज़ों के बारे में जान लिया तो अगली चीज़ ये है कि आपने जुमले कैसे बनाने हैं. जुमले बनाते वक्त किन बातों का ख्याल रखना है, कैसे आप अपने जुमलों को सादा बनाएंगे, कैसे आपने छोटे छोटे जुमले बनाए. एक बात का ख्याल रहे कि आपके जुमले, आपके किसी भी लेटर में जुमले इतने किसी जुमलों में अल्फाज जो हैं वो इतने भी थोड़े नहीं होने चाहिए कि वो एक बड़ा एक इमेच्योर सा इफेक्ट जो है वो लगे, जैसे आपका हर सेंटेंस जो है वो 10 से कम लफ्ज़ों के ऊपर आ रहा है. इस बात का भी ख्याल है. बस एक ओरिजिनल शुरू में ये चीज़ें जो हैं वो आपको सोच के करना पड़ेंगी. आपको ख्याल रखना पड़ेगा कि आपने इन चीज़ों को कैसे करना है. लेकिन आहिस्ता आहिस्ता जो है वो आपकी आदत हो जाएगी कि आप कैसे आपने ऐसे लेटर लिखने हैं कि जिनको आप कम अल्फाज के साथ लिखें. इस तरह आपने यूनिटी कैसे लानी है, यानी आपके सेंटेंसेस में यूनिटी कैसे होनी चाहिए, आपके सेंटेंसेस में कोहेरेंस कैसे होनी चाहिए, एम्फेसिस कैसे होने चाहिए. इन तमाम बातों के बारे में हमने आज डिस्कस किया. तो आज हमने प्रिंसिपल ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन यानी कम्युनिकेशन के जो प्रिंसिपल्स हैं उनके बारे में डिस्कस किया है कि कैसे हम अपने لیٹرز کو بہترین کر سکتے ہیں. میں نے لیکچر کے شروع میں 4-5 لیٹرز جو تھے وہ پڑھے. اس کے بعد ہم نے کچھ گفتگو کی جن میں سے بے شمار چیزیں جو تھیں وہ اس وقت ڈسکس کی, اور پھر یہ جو ہم نے کلیئرٹی کا پہلا پرنسپل جو ہے اس کو اسٹڈی کیا, اس میں بھی ڈسکس کی. اب آپ ذرا دوبارہ جائیے ان لیٹرز کو, اور وہ آپ نے جو بھی نئی معلومات حاصل کی ہے اس معلومات کی روشنی میں ذرا دیکھیے کہ اب آپ کی ان لیٹر کے بارے میں کیا رائے ہے. وہ لیٹر جو میں نے پہلے بھی کہا اور اب بھی کہہ رہا ہوں کہ گرامیٹیکلی بالکل ٹھیک ہے, لیکن پرنسپلز وائز, پرنسپلز آف کمیونیکیشن وائز ان میں کئی ایک مسائل ہیں جن کو اب آپ بہتر طریقے سے انالائز کرنے کے قابل ہوں گے. تو ہم اپنے اس لیکچر کو آج کے اس لیکچر کو یہاں ختم کرتے ہیں. آئندہ لیکچر میں ہم کمیونیکیشن کے جو بقیہ 6 پرنسپلز ہیں ان کے بارے میں گفتگو کریں گے. ان چیزوں کو ریوائز کیجئے اور اپنی ہیبٹ بنائیے. سب سے امپورٹنٹ بات یہ ہے کہ اب جب بھی کبھی آپ لکھنے لگیں, اور لازمی بات ہے کہ آپ اکثر لکھتے ہیں, تو اس بات کا خیال رکھیں کہ یہ چیزیں آپ کے ذہن میں ہوں کہ کلیئرٹی کو آپ نے کیسے اچیو کرنا ہے. ایک اچھی ڈکشنری جیسے میں نے کہا وہ بھی آپ کے پاس ہونی چاہیے, ایک اچھی تھیسورس جو ہے وہ بھی آپ کے پاس ہونی چاہیے. سینٹینس اسٹرکچرز کے بارے میں آپ کو بہت کانشیس ہونا چاہیے کہ آپ لکھتے وقت, بولتے وقت کئی چیزیں جو ہیں وہ ٹیکن فار گرانٹیڈ لے لی جاتی ہیں کہ بولتے وقت ہم بعض اوقات ایک چیز کے بارے میں بولتے بولتے اچانک ہمارے ذہن میں کوئی دوسرا خیال آ جاتا ہے تو ہم شفٹ کر جاتے ہیں. یہ ایک لنگوسٹک میں اس کے اوپر بھی بے شمار گفتگو جو ہے وہ موجود ہے, لیکن ہم اس کو یہاں نہیں کرنا چاہ رہے. لیکن آپ سب جانتے ہیں کہ بولتے وقت ہم کئی باتیں جو ہیں وہ مختلف طریقے سے کرتے ہیں, لیکن لکھتے وقت ہمارے پاس یہ فیسلٹی ہے کہ ہم اپنی بات کو ریوائز کر سکیں. تو اس بات کا خیال رکھیں کہ آپ جب لکھنے لگیں تو ان باتوں کو اپنے ذہن میں رکھیں. آج کا لیکچر یہاں ختم کرتے ہیں. بہت شکریہ. خدا حافظ.